Hello everyone, this is Travis Tressler again at Play Tennis Gainesville, and we're going to emphasize on our USTA League players today and talk a little single strategy. Before I get going here, I first got to give a quick shout out to the USTA and the net generation for the clipboard I'm going to be using today. If you are a pro tennis instructor yourself or you work at a school as a PE teacher, I'd recommend getting signed up with Net Generation. They'll send you a lot of free tennis gear, game plans, stuff that'll help you implement tennis into your school or at your club. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about single strategy. While I don't have access to a tennis court, and a lot of us don't right now, these are some things you can think about, and once you're able to get back out on that court, you can start to try to implement these, talk to your pro, your tennis instructor about this. So, quick overview of what I'm going to go over today. We're going to talk about hitting cross court, changing direction, playing your strengths, playing to your opponent's weakness, serve and volley, bring your opponent to the net, and using variety when we're playing. While you're stuck in your house for the time being, you're watching reruns on Tennis Channel, you're going to be able to see a lot of pros using a couple of these strategies, if not all of them. So if you can take a couple of these, implement them into your game, you're going to see a lot of gains in your tennis game. First single strategy I want to talk about is hitting cross court. So when I talk about hitting cross court, I'm talking about hitting diagonally here across that court. So I'm going from red to red or blue to blue here. Two main reasons that hitting cross court is a smart strategy is one, when we're actually on a tennis court, this middle part right here of the net is going to be the lowest part of the net. So when we're playing that ball cross court, we're actually hitting over that lowest part, and it's going to give us more margin for error. Also, hitting cross court actually extends the court by a couple feet. So once again, when you're hitting cross court, you're going to be hitting over that low part of the net and actually hitting to more space. Give us more margin for error, and you'll be less likely to make that mistake here. Another reason, when we're watching pro tennis players, they're only changing direction, really going down the line, when they're 110% sure that they can make that ball. If there's any doubt in their minds that they can't make that down the line ball, they're going to send that ball back cross court and play the percentage. So, when you're playing, I would recommend taking it cross court most of the time and staying solid, and you're going to win a lot more tennis matches doing that. Now that we've talked about playing cross court and playing that high percentage shot, I want to talk about when we would actually change direction, go down the line. So there's two times when we actually would want to change direction. One involves your positioning on the court, and the other time involves your opponent's positioning on the court. First off, I want to talk about your positioning and where your ideal place is to change direction on the court. So if I'm right here on the court and me and my opponent are rallying cross court, going back and forth there, if they leave that ball short in the court and I'm actually moving in to hit that ball, they'll be a little over to the side, standing over here. And that's a great time for me to take control of that point and go down the line with that ball. When it's a great opportunity to change direction, involves our opponent's positioning. So if I notice my opponent over here is super far off the court, out of position, super far back in the court here, that's a great time for me, even if they're not playing that ball short, they're hitting it here deep, up short, doesn't matter. They're way over here, so it's a great time to hit that ball where they're not and change direction. The next strategy I want to talk about is playing your strengths. This is something that sounds super simple, but I don't see enough of with players on the tennis court. Everybody that plays tennis has a certain side, a certain shot that they prefer, and you should be trying to hit that shot as much as possible. For today, I'm going to use myself as an example, and I like my forehand. So when I'm playing a singles match, I'm looking to hit my forehand as much as possible. 2 quick things about playing your strengths. First thing is, it's going to require a little bit more footwork, which a lot of people don't like the sound of, but it's going to be worth it in the end. So if you have to move your feet a little bit more to get around that ball and avoid hitting that backhand and hit your forehand, you're definitely going to like the results of doing that. Second thing involves where we start on the court. So traditionally, we're told to start right in the middle here when we're playing singles. However, if I prefer my forehand, I'm actually going to move my starting position a little bit over to the side here on the ad court, so that way I'm actually opening up more of the court to my forehand side. I want to make sure when you're doing this, you're not standing too far over in the court. You still want to be close to the middle there, but you're just sliding over a little bit to prefer that forehand. Another strategy that I would like to talk about today is playing your opponent's weaknesses. So it's kind of along the same lines as playing your strengths. You don't want your opponent hitting the shot they prefer. So every opportunity you get, if you're playing somebody and you're warming up and you notice that they don't like their backhand, I want you to try to get that ball to their backhand as much as possible. So I'd like to talk about 2 ways that you can get that ball to your opponent's weaker side. The first one is an obvious one. If they don't like their backhand, I'm going to try to get in that cross-court rally. If I'm playing here and this is my opponent, I'm going to try to get a lot of rallies going back and forth to that backhand. The second one isn't as obvious. If somebody doesn't like their backhand side, I'm actually gonna try to get in that forehand to forehand rally here. We're hitting back and forth to that forehand side. Eventually, I'll try to pull them off to the side away from that forehand, and that'll open up the backhand side of the court, make it a lot easier for you to get in that backhand to backhand rally. The next strategy I want to talk about is the serve and volley. So this is something that's kind of a lost art in tennis. Traditionally, people use the serve and volleys back in the 60s, 70s, 80s to try to get to that net and finish points as quick as possible. However, in the modern tennis game, most people are hitting ground strokes. So, this is a good strategy to mix it up and throw your opponent off a little bit. There's 2 main points I want to talk about with that serve and volley. The first thing is our serve location. So if I'm serving here and my opponent's returning, I'm going to want to serve in the middle of the court to the tee. The reason for this is we're actually taking away angles for that passing shot from the returner. So if I'm hitting here and that person's returning, it's going to be very hard for them to hit away from that middle of the court. However, if I serve out wide, that's going to leave open a big angle cross court and allow them to pass earlier. The second thing about the serve and volley is when you serve, try to get into that net as quick as possible and get a split step. All right? If you're not super close to the net, that's fine, but you got to get a split step. The closer you are on that serve and volley to the net, the easier it'll be to put that first volley away. Another great strategy to use when we're playing a super consistent player from the baseline is actually bringing them to the net. So we've all been there before. We're playing somebody that's super consistent. They don't miss. They don't have a lot of power from the baseline. And that can be very frustrating when we're playing. However, one way to combat this is actually getting that player to move forward and get to the net. A lot of players that don't generate a lot of pace are going to be uncomfortable there at the net. How we're going to combat this is either playing a drop shot or a short slice into the front part of the court here. So if I'm here, my opponent's there, and he's just solid hitting that ball back from the baseline, I'm actually going to play a ball that's going to land shorter in that court, and that's going to force them to move in, and they're going to be uncomfortable up at that net. And you can either hit a passing shot, hit a lob, but you're taking them out of their comfort zone, go into their weakness. The last strategy I want to talk about for singles is using variety from the baseline. So this is something that you see in all sports, but you don't want your opponent to get in a rhythm when they're playing against you. So if I'm hitting heavy topspin as hard as I can every single time, I may think that I'm playing really well, but my opponent is going to get used to seeing that ball. So I want to encourage you to try to hit different types of shots and not hit the same shot 2 times in a row. So if I hit a heavy topspin forehand, the next time I'm going to hit a slice down the line to change it up. And this is an easy drill that you can do when you get back onto a tennis court, is actually challenge yourself to not hit that same shot twice in a row. So if I'm hitting the ball with heavy topspin, switch it up, hit a slice next time, hit a ball flat and hard, and then throw up a high lob. But that variety is going to keep your opponent guessing, and they're not going to know what's coming next. All tennis players have heard their coach use the term smart player. What does this entail? We've all seen these players that don't seem to have the most technically sound strokes. They don't hit the ball super hard. They don't get a lot of spin, but they win a lot of tennis matches. Everybody's seen these players and they know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's super frustrating when we're out on the tennis court. Usually, these players are using some of the strategies that we talked about today. So if you're able to implement these strategies, it's going to increase your game tenfold. Thank you everybody for watching. I look forward to talking to you again soon.